What are your best alien stories? My young daughter also told us about beings that she could clearly see in her bedroom. She sleeps with the light on. I had a dream where I was abducted. I was 13. They stuck needles into my stomach. I woke up, and had scars where they did it in my dream. Today at 31, I still have the scars, and the hair on my stomach grows extra long on those two spots. Still creeps me out to this day. Personally, I saw a flying saucer floating outside from my balcony as a child that was about 5 feet from top to bottom. It was flat on the top and bottom too. It just kinda hovered in place while spinning about 10 feet out from the deck at around 3 a.m. I ran to tell my parents, but it was gone by the time they got there. Also, it had a green glow in the center of it going horizontal around the craft. There was this house I used to live in that had multiple strange things happen. Once on my way home, me and my boyfriend noticed a craft-like object in the sky. Since we live near a military base, we thought it was probably theirs, but then it started to zigzag right to left, up and down extremely fast. We stopped the car and just watched. It kept it up for 2 minutes until it shot up lightning speed, seemingly out of the outer sphere. Then noticeably for months afterwards, there was a bright orb that hovered near our house. One night I saw a blue rectangle of light in my kid's room. I almost got up to touch it, but had a strong feeling that I should stay still and not disturb it. A couple years later when my dying uncle lived there, he would laugh and talk to what he said were the Greys. Lol. I know when someone's dying they can see things, but he always has claimed he sees them. He used to describe the Greys and the beautiful ones that radiated light. We also had weird psychic-like experiences there. Me and my mom would think each other's thoughts randomly. My mom would sometimes astral project while meditating, and see beings out of the corner of her eyes. Lol, it was a very interesting time. After we moved from that place, didn't happen anymore. When I used to own a telescope I saw a classic disc-shaped object just above tree level before sunset. It released 2 green orbs which went off in different directions. To say I was stunned would be an understatement. That is one sighting that I will never forget. I live in the DMV and we have sightings here quite frequently. Some people say that the giant triangle that was over the Pentagon was a hoax, but it was actually filmed from several different locations that night. I don't think it was a hoax. There are no aliens, just fallen angels deceiving people into believing they are aliens. They don't come from outer space either. They've always been here. Alien stories. A thread for personal alien stories based on the most recent podcast. I'll go first. I was a small child, probably 6 or 7, and my dad came home from a long-haul truck driving excursion. He had been gone a week or 2. Whenever he was home, he always made it an event for my sister and I, since he was often on the road for birthdays and holidays. This particular evening, he came home around 11 p.m. It was well past our bedtime, but we were allowed to stay up and wait for him, since it was a rare occurrence. As a family, we went out in the backyard with a blanket. We spread it out on the grass and laid down under the moonless sky. We named shapes and constellations, and ruminated on how small the Earth is in the expanse of the cosmos. While my sister and I were too young to have existential questions or dread, we were old enough to feel dwarfed by the infinity of the stars, impressed by the magnitude of the galaxy. And then a satellite drifted by, and my dad started to talk about the Greys. I don't remember the specifics, but he told us about how he had been abducted and how they had things put in his nose, how they had too few fingers on each spindly hand, how they only allowed him to remember portions of the encounter. He spoke in absolutes. He did not wonder or ponder that it might have been a road-induced fever dream. To him, everything he said to us was real, terrifying, and true. While I've never had an experience like that of my own, I believe that he believes it happened. At least enough to scare the shit out of his daughters one night on a blanket, under the stars. One time my mom, my sister, and I were coming home late at night. It was cloudy so the sky was black. But I looked up anyways, and one spot above the trees next to our house had a purple hue to it. Like, really purple. And that was fucking weird. I have a grainy Laura's picture somewhere, because that was back when cell phone cameras sucked more. But it was bizarre. It didn't move either, but I came out like an hour later and it wasn't there anymore. These was also one time I was house sitting for one of my dad's friends, and one night I had a dream that all I can remember was seeing 2 aliens, and then I woke up with a start facing the wall, but I had the deepest sense of dread behind me, and I was terrified to turn around or move, because I felt those aliens staring at me. I don't know if that was my imagination or what, but it was scary. Thankfully it only happened the one time. I lived out in the middle of nowhere and would see lights moving around in the sky doing impossible things. Sometimes they'd even just stop dead and disappear. Weird shit like that. Wife and I were heading down Highway 72 in NC and coming home from visiting family. We were heavy in conversation and suddenly we saw it. Both yelling "WTF is that?" In the sky up to the right of our vision was a large black thing. It looked like a tall triangle on its side and was obscured somewhat in the clouds. Even though it was far away, we could even make out some bumps and things coming off of it. My wife and I were freaking out. Most of the cars on the highway slowed down to a stop as we all stared. Suddenly, with audible pop that sounded like a sonic boom, it seemed to almost flicker then blast across the sky all the way to the left of what the windshield would allow me to see. It was visible there for half a second before another boom and it disappeared. I've only ever told a few because of how crazy it sounds, but to me it's irrefutable evidence that they're here. Why, who knows? Did the people I told believe me? Who knows? But my wife and I know what we saw. This story scares the crap out of my friends who saw it to this day. Huge black box looking drone with no lights and zero noise. According to them, it was just going back and forth over a hill for 10 minutes then casually floated away into the dark. I didn't see it personally, but I believe the two who saw it. I've personally seen nothing that interesting. Just a few stars moving around weirdly that easily could have been a reflective weather balloon catching some sun at night. One night my dad and I were driving back to my house, and we saw these lights start to appear over a barn as we were going by. At first I thought they were a glare on the window until my dad asked me if I saw them. After that, one by one, they shot up in a line and disappeared. It all happened in less than 30 seconds. Not super crazy, but it was a weird encounter. English is not my native language, but I'll try. I've been wanting to get this out. I live in the Philippines. I was like in 4th grade. I was in school. It was break time. Me and my friends are just chatting in my seat, but my seat is in the first chair in the first row and I'm on my seat and my friends are on the floor and I was close to the window. We just chatting. I was spacing out and I was just staring at the window and I saw something in the sky moving left and right fast and it was shaped like a UFO, but it's not very invisible. You know the Harry Potter invisible cloak? Yay, it was invisible but you can see it. It's there. It's moving fast as if searching for something, and it finally found something and shot a beam of light on the ground and then swoosh, just swoosh. It all happened for like 10 seconds or less. I was too stunned on what the heck I saw. I couldn't even say a word, just stared at the sky and my friend shakes me out of it and I shrugged it off. I was young. I don't watch much TV except cartoons back then, so I didn't even know about UFO and stuff. I just remembered I saw that when I was watching a YouTube video of UFO sightings. Honestly, I don't know if I really saw it or I was just imagining things cause I was a kid. The first time I've ever seen a UFO was in 3rd grade, late 2000s, 2008-09 maybe. I was taking one of those 60-second timed multiplication tests and I loved those tests as a kid since I would race against a couple friends in my class and I swear, at least I think lol, I was ahead of everyone and I was gonna finish first, but more than halfway through the test. I don't know why exactly, but I just had the sensation or feeling to look out the window randomly. So I looked up and I saw this saucer-shaped figure literally like 150 to 250 feet away from the school, about 30 to 50 feet above the houses in my neighborhood. I lived in the neighborhood just down the SD from my elementary. Anyways, I saw this thing and I've always been fascinated by the idea of aliens and UFOs since a kid, but it wasn't like anything I've seen in videos or pictures. It was in the shape of a saucer, but it was rough around the edges, like had rigid edges, not smooth, perfectly rounded edges like your typical flying saucer. It had 2 antennas, one on each side, and I swear along the bottom right side I could see what I would say were numbers. Numbers and letters like a serial code or something to identify the craft. I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but even as a kid it just looked man-made to me. Like if a human attempted to make a UFO, and if I'm remembering right I could have sworn it was even like a desert army camo color. But yeah, I looked out the window during the test and seen this thing and I was just kinda shocked/stunned looking at this thing. I wanted to say something but I didn't for some reason. I just looked at it floating over the houses for like 10 to 20 seconds. I looked back down to finish maybe 2 to 4 problems I didn't finish. It only took me about 2 to 3 seconds to finish the last questions, but by the time I looked back up it was gone. My friends yelled they were done with their test while I finished those last problems I left unanswered. I'm still convinced I would have won them if I hadn't looked out the window lol, but I didn't say anything. I just kept it to myself and just kept thinking about what I saw the rest of the day. I went home and told my mom, not sure if she believed me or anyone I've told the story to. Even I for a while wondered if I really saw this thing because no one believed me, but I know I really did see this thing. I've seen a lot of strange things in the sky, a lot of what I'm convinced were UFOs because I can't explain some of them, nothing like what I saw in this story, but this one's always stood out to me since it looked man-made. The other ones I've seen looked like white tic-tacs, cigar-shaped, triangles and an odd moving invisible rectangle thing with lights along the corners, like if there was lights on just 2 corners of a rectangle but invisible in the middle, or maybe just black. but I swear I could see through it and see the stars behind it, but I could just tell it was like a rectangle moving with no sense of direction across the sky. Anyways, yeah, that's my story.